So I'm almost done with this playthrough. I'm obviously not anywhere close to winning the game yet. But here I'm building more settlers. And in a minute or so I will review the interface one last time to compare to subsequent versions of Civilization. But notice I'm building up my peacetime infrastructure here because I intend to develop the society as much as possible. So, I'm going to review the interface here. First of all, the most significant advance in Civilization, it could be argued, was the Civilopedia. And the Civilopedia, long before the days of Wikipedia, gave you an encyclopedia of the game, so you could learn all about the different parts of the game, even terrain types like desert, so that you would know what to do. So that was a terrain type, atomic theory, civilization advance, all kinds of things. Very smart. And it's considered the first built-in instruction manual of its kind, actually. Also, we have the world menu here. So, Wonders of the World. I have not succeeded in building any, so it comes up blank. Oh well. Top 5 cities. Well, America is finally starting to catch up to me at this point, but every other one of the top cities is Roman. So I'm doing quite well in the game, I guess. Civilization score. This gives me an advance notice of what my score is as of this moment in the game, and it's not very high. I don't have any wonders. I do have a large population. I'm starting to rack up my peace score because I haven't been at war for a while, since the war with the Indians. But Roman achievements, 0, meaning no wonders, primarily. As I said, that's a deficiency in my gameplay in this game. World map. This only shows you the world map that you know, so it gives you an idea of the size of your own empire and maybe the locations of your enemies, although in this case, enemies and rivals and so on are invisible because I need to build naval units to go out and find them at this point, because I seem to have conquered the entirety of this continent. And then demographics. This is one of my favorites. So, approval rating, first, population first, GNP first, manufactured goods, 62 million tons first, land area first, literacy first, 64%, disease 40%, 5th place. Probably because I haven't developed medicine, and my life expectancy notice is only 25 years. Pollution is 0 because I haven't industrialized primarily. Family size, 3.3 children, 7th. I can work on that, probably. Military service, 2 years. That's 5th place because I don't have a huge military relative to the society. Productivity is low, probably because the population are not beyond a 50% approval rating of my rule. And annual income, 13 gold pieces per capita first, probably because of the huge size of the empire. But this is a very useful menu for figuring out how well you're doing in the game, actually. Then you have your advisors. So the one that you saw earlier, of course, was the city status, which isn't really an advisor. That's just the status of all your cities for once your empire gets to be large enough to lose track. So you have food production, followed by production, followed by trade. You see the little icons between the city name and whatever it's building at the moment. And all of these matter. Then you have your military advisor, who's mostly useful for telling you how many units you have in Civilization 1. And you can also get an idea of how modern your military is by looking at what kinds of units you have and in what quantity. So at this point, I'm upgrading to musketeers from phalanxes for defensive units. It will probably replace that legion, or at least I'll consider it. Although the legion, notice, has a higher offense rating than the musketeers, because the blue numbers in the parentheses there between the unit name and the number active indicate the attack, the defense, and the movement per turn of those units. So actually the most powerful offensive units I have are the chariots, not the musketeers. So it's somewhat interesting. And these are all things you have to take into consideration if you're going to enter a war. And then it shows the military losses. These are a little bit deceptive because they don't tell you what rate you're losing units at. And they're for the entirety of the game. They're not just for the most recent conflict you've been involved in. Notice, though, in the box over on the left there, that would be my losses. And so far, I have no losses. Whereas those color-coded ones there for triremes are for the other civilizations that are still in existence. They get rid of the ones that are not. And so the Americans have lost one, and I don't know what those other three are. Now, Intelligence Advisor. This is relatively unsophisticated in Civilization 1. It basically tells you your own position. Basically, your type of government, how much you have in your treasury, and how many military units you have. This does become useful if you have embassies in these other civilizations. But the problem is I don't have them. So I don't actually know what the military position or any position is of these other empires. All right. The Attitude Advisor is basically measuring your approval rating, contentment of the citizenry, and so on. So notice only 1% are actually happy, but 98% are content. And so it gives each city and what the population is, what their classes are. People in the blue overalls there are the working class. People in light blue are the upper class. And then you have miscellaneous specialists over on the far right. And the only one I have right now is an entertainer there, portrayed by Elvis for Tenochtitlan. Again, mispronouncing the name, I'm sure. And it gives me the population, of course, as well. And over in the blue menu there, the lighter blue menu, it shows what kind of happiness improvements I have in the cities, which at this point is only temples at the moment. Then I have Trade Advisor, who's really more of a budgetary advisor. You can look at the tax income there and the luxuries production. So the luxury production are represented by diamonds. The taxes are represented by the little plus signs there. And the science production is represented by light bulbs. But you look at the total income versus the total expenses over on the right there, total costs. And I'm doing pretty well, actually. And that's the most important thing that you see in the trade report. And the Science Advisor is similar. But the Science Advisor focuses on specifically what technologies you have and what you're working on. Sometimes the Trade Advisor is better for researching your scientific position. Now that brings me to the tax rate. The tax rate and the luxuries rate are both very important because they determine how much science you can produce and how much revenue you can get. So you consult the Trade Advisor and then you set your tax rate and then your luxuries rate. Luxuries, again, are a way of achieving greater public happiness as you get more democratic forms of government. Now, I'm running out of time at this point, but I'm going to do one more video on the city screen.